All right. Kind of starting on the wiring. So I'm probably gonna make 3D print something to hold the GMT 800 fuse box and the PCM mount I got from an S10. I don't know which direction I'm going to put them yet, because the length of this is pretty crazy. I might switch the PCM over here and move the fuse box here. I'm not sure yet, mainly because of how long. And I really don't feel like trying to shorten a bunch of wires and everything else. Now, normally, depending on the application and ease, um, the cam sensor plug, which is right there, um, it should work with this. This is an '05 engine, so it has the newer LS style cam sensor. So I'll probably just now this is for an 8.1 using a 5.3 or any LS harness. I'm probably just going to strip the electrical tape, pull the sensor out to about here, and then reroute it down to where the cam sensor is, because it's on the front on these engines. Now, the crank sensor is normally where the cam sensor is on the LS. So I'll have to, that runs normally on this run here, this long run with the AC starter wire. And this one also has the oil level sensor plug. I'm probably going to strip all that out. I actually need the starter wire. The starter wire that on this harness got cut. So I'll probably strip all this down, get the crank sensor out, reroute it back up here, back over there where I stripped out the cam sensor, and then the only other difference is the power and ground is moved on that. So you just pop this cover off, you take a little needle and you bend the tabs down, pull the wires out, switch them and put it back together. And then I can plug the crank sensor and have that work. So that's on the wiring side. Also, this is a 4L60E harness. I have a 4L80E. So the information for that is on LT1 swap. You pull a couple wires out of this plug. You move one wire around. Then you have these two spare wires, which you move to the secondary speed sensor for the 4L80. And then you just put a plug that fits that speed sensor onto the end of the wires you took out of this thing. I'll link it below so you can reference it yourself. But that's, the wiring is awesome. I hate wiring, but I've learned after doing a bunch of these swaps that, there's cheap Amazon harnesses they sell for $150. And it's cheap for a reason, because all the connectors suck. They wire it wrong. They just pick whatever colors wires they want. So unless you feel like going through and labeling everything and replacing every connector, it's better just to use one that's already been tested and worked for the last 20 years. So that's what I do. Aside from that, on the wiring, I was trying to get all my other stuff connected. I got lucky. I had taken, this transmission was up behind a 454, and I had taken the neutral safety backup switch off, and it was years ago. It was like 4 years ago, so I didn't know where it went. Luckily, I found a spare one laying in my junk stuff, and then this is the cable from the Colorado. It's a little tight how I did the exhaust. I heat wrapped it and moved it, but it had the same size hole as the 480E bracket I kept. So that worked out. And luckily, the person who stole the transmission out of this truck left the shift lever on it, so that was helpful. So I got lucky there. That's hooked up. It's a little bit tight right there. I could almost run it the other direction on the outside of the pipe if I wanted to. It'd probably be smarter. I don't know yet. It shifts. I guess I verify that, you know, it's in the correct gear that I tell it to be. So, you know, I'll check all that out once I get it running. But for now, that's done and connected. I'm waiting for parts on the super tight banjo fittings for the transmission. And I'm waiting for a U-joint, and I can get that finalized. So once I get it running, I can actually see if it moves forward and back and all other crazy stuff. But that's why I covered that for now. I'll go into more detail once I've finished fixing this other stuff. My brother, how I ended up with this stuff was my brother, some guy ran a red light, hit my brother, and they told it out of his truck for an amazing amount, double what he paid for it. So I bought the truck back for $1,200, and then we ended up using the motor and tranny in his new truck that he bought because it was a V6. So I got the old harness, and I tried to keep as much parts off what I could after I got rid of it. But it was a drive-by-wire, so that's I'm glad I kept it. And but let me get busy with that. I've got to pull the on the 8.1, the injector harness is separate. So I've got to pull that off, and then because of course the 5.3 harness, the injector clips are part of the harness. Hook all that stuff up. Kind of got it figured out. The only other thing I got to make as well is I needed the knock sensor plug off of this for something. I don't remember what. I think it was to fix somebody else's butchered swap. But I have to, you know, I had to change it anyway. So I'm going to extend those wires and run the knock sensors for the 8.1 because their plugs are different and everything. And I've got some of those laying around, but that's about the only other goofy thing you got to do with these to get it to work with your from 5.3 to 8.1 using the same harness. There's some year differences on the 8.1s, mainly because of the cam sensor. But I mean, you know, if you want that information, just comment, and I'll send you. I'll tell you everything you need to know, especially if you're sure of the years of stuff. So, but I think that's it. Let me end it here, and let me keep trudging along.